So, last time we managed to help a chef out with his pesky pepper predicament, and by doing so, we have now gained an audience with a killer out in the courtyard. Sadly, though, it seems that our efforts might have been for naught because it appears like the courtyard is fairly empty. We do get a nice vantage point of that tower with the glass coffin, but for the most part, the courtyard is very much lacking in anything of interest. Just the shed, and it's a bit hard to make out there in the corner, but it looks like a tombstone. And having just narrowly avoided becoming spectral doggy chow, we find ourselves back in the past yet again. Before we go talk to that young girl, though, there is a brand new item on the ground here. A very colorful looking herb. And if we go and look at it in the inventory, well, you can probably already guess what it does, but it is going to be an improved healing item. That should become pretty useful in the future, especially if we get assaulted by any more ghost dogs, but, well, since we are back in time, I guess that means we are going to have to offer up some assistance to this young girl. Let's see what her troubles are.
Ne, 犬を見なかった？ティーノっていうの。これくらいの大きさで、これと同じペンダントを首につけてるんだけど、どこ行っちゃったんだろう。雨、降ってきたのに。また何か見つけたのかな？あの子、何でも加えちゃうから。
I wonder where that Dino could have gone off to. I mean, there's not very many avenues for a dog to get out in this area. Don't think he could have gone back inside. And all that really leaves is that shed here in the corner. Guess we might as well go ahead and explore. Doesn't seem like it caused any harm. And it doesn't appear to be just any type of shed. Instead, it seems to be a pretty elaborate looking storage for a lot of wine. I guess the Clancys must be very, very large and indulging in spirits, but who could have left this open? I guess Dino could have gone down here. I mean, if he's a curious dog. Still, it seems that curiosity can be a little bit of a danger. Yeah, we are currently stuck down here, but good news is this was exactly where little Dino had gotten to, and even though we can't get over to him right now, I do think with a little bit of exploration we should be able to get over there. Seems to be some strange mechanisms down here in the wine storage cellar, but a nearby poster I think should give us a little bit of help with this. Yeah, for some reason or another, the wine cellar here has a bizarre setup for its drawbridges, let alone the fact that it having drawbridges in the first place is a tad bit strange, but yeah, it seems that the drawbridges work on a switch system, and well, if anything is weighing down one of the bridges, it goes into a lockdown mode and will stop working. I guess that will be good to figure out once we need to make our way over to Dino there. For now, though, I think it's a little bit more pressing to figure out how to not be trapped down in this wine cellar forever. I mean, I guess that young girl could come and explore in here and find us, but I don't really want to bank on that. Still, it doesn't take too much time before we stumble across what appears to be a lift heading back up to the ground floor. Doesn't seem too complicated, just working a lever. Still, it can never be that easy. And indeed, it looks like the bolt holding the lever in place seems to almost be falling off. Still, the avid-eyed viewer might have noticed that Dino did indeed have something in his mouth that might very well be the key to getting out of this place, so that makes it even more important for us to head up there and try to free Dino from his wine cellar prison. So there are two switches down here to operate the drawbridges. There's one on the lower level and one on the upper level. And it might seem initially that it's a pretty easy task to make our way over to Dino. I mean, he's right over there, and the switch to bring down the drawbridge is right here, so it should be that this puzzle has already solved itself. As you can imagine, though, Dino is not totally up for giving us what we want. Yeah, as we are strangers, this rambunctious young pup is not really going to give us that wrench just yet. Instead, we have to use a little bit of forethinking to try to, well, for lack of a better term, we have to trap him and corner him. Not usually what you want to do with a dog, but we don't really have many options right now. But the solution to this puzzle is a fairly simple one. We just have to manage to synchronize up the drawbridges. And it's easy enough to corral Dino. Pretty much just have to be facing in the direction we want him to move, and he'll just move right along the platforms. But after we have him sitting on the drawbridge, if we then go ahead and pull the switch, the safety mechanism will go into effect. And now we have both the drawbridges synchronized up. It's a little bit convoluted, I guess, for lack of a better word, but it is a little bit more in-depth of a puzzle than we've really had so far, but we finally get our reward. Nice spanner. And it looks like Dino is done playing with us, so I think it's time we finally repair that elevator and make our way back up to his owner. I'm sure she doesn't want to be standing out in that storm any longer. Though I'm a bit worried about little Dino's pathfinding. He seems to just have some magical powers, maybe due to that pendant that he has. But the lift is very easy to fix. And we can now safely make our way back up to ground level. Still, though, that does kind of leave me wondering just who ended up locking us down there in the first place. Well, no time to ponder on that. We need to return this dog to its owner.
よかった。もう会えないかと思った。いいの。私、もうダメ。どうして。お兄様が。お願い。ディーノと友達に。私とディーノのディーノずっと一緒に
That tragic end, we now know what became of this young girl and her dog, but even more than that, we now have a means to finally put her tormented soul to rest.
ディーナ、一緒に行こう。
So we've managed to take down our first offensive ghost. Though that did leave us with more questions than answers, it did leave behind a nice new gift for us in the form of this horsehead hook. You might recall in the previous episode where we might need to use that, but still in the end, looks like the story that was being painted here was that, well, the young girl was inevitably going to be murdered, and that someone had really gone out of their way to get rid of her canine protector down in that wine cellar. And even though we did manage to help, it didn't seem to stop her inevitable demise. So as we say goodbye to Dino, who the Gravestone stated was the cleverest dog in the world, It's now time we head back inside and have a little bit of peace and quiet and finish up some exploration in the West Wing. Yeah, though we do want to head back over to the servants' waiting room, there were a couple of areas that I had not explored previously, such as this door right here in the kitchen, which, as you could probably tell from the exterior, was a very large walk-in freezer. And another improvement that Echo Knight 2 has over its predecessor is that it includes some interesting screen filters to represent changes in weather. And though this freezer is indeed very spacious, it doesn't really hold anything of interest. Unless we're ever in the market for very large hunks of frozen meat or fish, I guess this is the place that we want to go, but yeah, for right now, just an additional room that maybe we could have escaped into were we being chased. Now, you might also recall in the previous update, I think there was one final door that I had not explored yet that was connected to the dining room. And it's probably not what I would call a regular room in most homes. And indeed, nowadays, you wouldn't really find anywhere that the home has a specified smoking area. At least indoors, anyway. But in times long forgotten, after a nice hearty meal, the men of the establishment would probably go grab a nice lovely drink and head off into a little parlor area and share a story and a stogie with their fellow man. In this case, though, we don't really have a want to smoke, and otherwise this is just another room. Still, though, I want to say that, much like in Echo Knight 1, From Software really did a good job of representing what I would call proper architecture. It's not something like in, the Resident Evil Mansion, where it was just kind of a series of rooms that were more or less excuses for puzzles. In the Clancy estate here, everything seems to be connected in a very reasonable and logical manner. We can assume that the West Wing here was more for, general entertainment purposes, what with the music room and the dining room and the bar. And it all just flows into each room in a very, very good manner. I could easily picture this as being a real home for a real person. But with all those areas explored, it's finally time we head off and use that horse head hook on the wall here in the servants' waiting room. It's especially nice that we laid that poor girl's soul to rest, because it does allow us ample opportunity to just take in the sights and just really appreciate the setup of this entire area. Still, though, you are kind of left to wonder why this hook head was missing. And that's because, there still has to be the opportunity for kind of outlandish hidden rooms in any type of game. In this hidden room, though, there isn't really too much to find. Just a lonely little desk and a lonely little chair with just a little bit of reading material. And as you can imagine, since that hook head fell off that young girl, the diary that we find here on the table is one that she was writing herself in secret. Now, there's really nothing too malevolent as to why she was writing here in secret. As we read the diary, we find that, well, she just happened to stumble across this hidden room here, and she was so happy about having a little secret area to herself that she just decided to use this as her own little hideout. And though she didn't tell her brother Albert about it, she did tell Dino, and it seems that she wasn't really too open with her brother Albert about it because he had gotten a little bit angry over the course of time. It seems that someone named Jessica just kept getting more and more sick, and even the doctors could not help poor Jessica. So it looks like the brother sent the doctors away, and gradually the brother Albert started to act more and more strange over time, blocking all access to the sick young Jessica. Also, we get a mention of some odd eastern ruins, and finally, a mention of some ghosts. Lots of new information there. Especially considering that we don't really have any idea where to go next. We seem to have covered the western lower area of the house pretty thoroughly. So I guess some eastern ruins would make a pretty good destination. And yet another mention of a wharf, and the mention of a chapel. Even more, talk of directions. I guess if we look at the map real quick, we see we don't really have too many other places we can go right now. But it definitely does seem like there are some connecting areas over to the east, specifically in the central corridor here, so I guess that is going to be where we are heading next. So, let's go ahead and start making our trek over there. Well, I could definitely make out the sounds of doors opening and closing, but what was that strange dragging? Well, I guess if someone was dragging something, they could have dragged them into this room we haven't gone into yet, but first we are going to have to figure out the locking mechanism for the door. And it appears to be connected to this lock here right next to it. And if you recall from the previous video, in one of the drawers we did find a collection of what appeared to be Roman numerals, and that indeed is going to be the combination for the door. Now, Roman numerals kind of follow a very specific set of rules. The numbers don't really go like I, V, I, or something like that. Usually V's are going to be the start of numbers, and that is how we are going to break up the 3-digit combination that was on that sheet. So let's see if what's in here might have been what was being dragged about. Nothing too conspicuous in here, but another new ghost to go talk to. It seems this young lady is in some distress. Let's see what the problem is.
みんなでね、かくれんぼしててね。でもね、全然わかんないの。いっぱい探したの。もう、やだ。これを持ってる人が鬼なの。お兄ちゃん、代わりに探して。
Now, normally I'd say we wouldn't have time for such childish games. We still have a missing girlfriend to look out for, but well, we do want to try to help out as many of these trapped souls as we possibly can, and well, this wolf's medallion is going to be our first equipable item. It is pretty much pivotal in this game of hide and seek. And, well, wouldn't you know it, I think we might have already found one of the young children that was playing this game with her. But before we leave the central room here, there are a couple more interesting things, such as this distribution board. And, as you can imagine, since there was already power outside, there is a key already waiting in here, so I guess if we need another distribution key, we can pick at that. But the one other thing that really catches my eye in here is this extremely large painting here on the wall. It's a bit hard to make out initially, but with reading the description, we see that it is a cave looking out upon a lake. If you remember from the cigar lounge, there was another painting in there of another body of water. And, well, even out in the central corridor here. Looks like there might have been another lovely landscape with a castle overlooking water. Maybe there's a larger water theme going on here. Still, though, that young child that was hiding out was doing so here in the dining room. And let's see if we can't elicit a different response now that we have our wolf medallion.
ああ、見つかっちゃった。頑張って隠れたのに。はい、これ。
So we pocket another Astral Piece, and we've managed to finish this game of hide and seek pretty easily. I mean, so far, some of these tasks have come across extremely easy, but I don't know, something is just making me think that this has seemed a bit too easy. So let's go ahead and claim our hide-and-seek prize. Ah, so that is why this is not going to be as easy as it seems, but well, it doesn't really solve our problems with that strange dragging noise. Though we do only have one more door we can check. I think it was right here around the corner. That is not really what I was expecting to see. Looks like a trail of blood coming from the foyer area. And following that trail of blood, we indeed see that was exactly where Brian's body had been left to rot. I would maybe think that I guess Brian could have turned into a ghost, but I don't normally think that ghosts bleed this much. And he was definitely dead, so someone has gone out of their way to move Brian's body. Just who could that be, and where were they taking him? That's going to have to be something we find out next time as we head through this door and discover what happened to Brian.